I believe this is year 3 of hosting this event, and this is year 3 of me once again wanting to get all of an entire series that you guys voted for because I enjoyed it so much. Hello friends, happy Friday. Today wraps up my final review of my Read Review Shoujo Spree event. If you're not sure what that is, be sure to check out this video here. It talks about what it was, the series that were up for voting, the series that won that I started reading. This was the series that technically won first place, even though I'm reading it last. I'm not really sure why I did that, but I definitely felt this was my favorite of the 3 reads. And if you're curious, well, what was the very first one that you did? It was Kageki Shoujo. I read almost all the entire series of what is out. Found a new favorite heroine because Sarisa was absolutely amazing. I loved her so much. I still think of her vibrant energy that she had in that manga. And then last week I did a first impression video because there's only one of 2 volumes out because it's completed 2 volumes. And that was Merit in the Egyptian God, so be sure to check that out. I also reviewed Mars, the 30th anniversary edition. Oh, and the Super Love Mode, which has a really long title. But today, as I said, we're wrapping it up, and I am not going to put on the side because I learned my lesson with Kageki Shoujo when all the manga fell, and that is Colette Decides to Die. I finished reading yesterday. Oh my goodness. Now, you might notice too, or might be thinking, especially if you have been following my channel, at least I would say, I guess, a year, because last year I actually did a first impression on Colette Decides to Die. I don't remember the other titles I reviewed with it, but I really enjoyed it. And then I just never got around to reading volume 2 and the rest of the series. And it won by a lot when it came to my event in each of the 2 rounds that I did. And so I knew that I wanted to have, I say that because I knew I wanted to have this series part of my event when I saw somebody had recommended it. And interestingly enough, I had to buy the last 3 volumes, and I will be buying the other ones that I'm missing because 2 through 4 were library pickups that I got. And I already have ordered volume 2. I am already planning to pre-order volume 8 when I can because I was not ready to say goodbye to these characters at all yesterday. I have so many thoughts. I truly hope I can talk about all of them well. I am going to do my very best to keep this series or this video review spoiler free to the best of my ability because, you know, people don't like spoilers. And I'll even show this panel here, this little page here of when Colette and Hades were on a date of sorts, and he's about to tell her what's coming up, and she's like, no spoilers, boo. I felt so bad for Hades. So if you're not familiar with this series, it is about our main female lead. Her name is Colette. She's an apothecary, and when we meet her at the very beginning, we see she is very, very overworked. She has not really been sleeping. She's not taking care of herself, but she's taking care of everybody else. And so there comes a moment where she is standing next to this well, and there's a legend that if you fall into the well, it will take you to another world. And she's really, really thinking about this because of how drained she is. She loves her job. She loves helping the people in this village, but she needs a break. And so when she sees that people are calling for her, asking, hey, where are you? Where are you? She decides to fall down the well. And yes, she does go to a whole other world. She goes to the underworld where she meets Hades. And to her surprise, Lord Hades here is just as overworked as she is, and he's having this illness of sort where we see that his skin is severely broken out. And we don't really know why, at least originally at first. We don't know why he looks like this, what happened. And he is not a very, I wouldn't say a cranky patient, but he's definitely saying, I'm fine. Just go back to the surface, do what you need to do. No, I don't need any help. And she is like, I'm going to have you be my patient, and I'm going to do a house call every day until you start healing and we see some improvements. And so begins this story where it doesn't just stop there after he's better. She continues to go to the underworld, and Lord Hades and her start having feelings for one another, and it starts blooming into a romance. One of the things I wish I had seen promoted more about this series online, that it wasn't until until around volume 4 or 5, but it was around volume 2 that or after volume 2, excuse me, that I was writing my review, and I could not think of, I was struggling to write my review. When I write reviews on Goodreads, y'all, usually I'm rushing to my computer wanting to get all my thoughts out, get the excitement on, as I say, on page, I guess, in this written review so people can see like, hey, this sounds really good. I need to go check it out. Like, yeah, we want to sell people here. We want to influence them in an excited kind of way. But I'm reading, after I read this, I'm like, I am struggling to put my words down. And I'm like, what is this? Why am I feeling this way? And I sort of started to have this realization that this is a series. It's fun. It's heartfelt. It's a really great time. I love the characters. I love the skeletons. But all in that, though, I really feel like this series is really making you think. It's teaching you something that sometimes seems very subtle, that's woven in with what these characters are learning about themselves, of learning to be proud, not only in your work, but it's okay to rely on other people when you need help. And ultimately, especially at the very beginning, to take a break, to take rest. This is critical and very, very important for your body and your overall well-being. However, going into at the end of volume 3, I think, or maybe at volume 4, I had this like epiphany, this moment that this series is special. But I feel for me, it's even more special? I don't know if that's a word, but it's more special to me. It reminded me of Snow White with the Red Hair. Snow White with the Red Hair is one of my favorite series. I love it so much. I gushed about it recently, and I think in my top 5 most anticipated releases of July video, saying that these characters feel like best friends. That is exactly what I got from this series. It's a series where, similar to Shirayuki, we're following Colette, we are seeing her journey, we're seeing things that are happening, and it has this romance that you're really invested in, because heck yes, I was invested. But also, you're very invested in the heroine's journey and the adventure she's going on to grow as an individual. And with that, it ties in just like Snow White with the Red Hair. You get to know all these characters and you become invested and attached to them individually, not just our leads, but everybody surrounding our leads. And I adore that so, so much. I really think if I had realized or made that connection or heard somebody say that, hey, you know, if you want a sort of an easy slice of life, this I would say is more humor though. Some great humor, some really swoony romance when you get it. This is a series you need to read, because at the end of this volume, or again volume 4, y'all, I wanted to hug my manga. The last time, not the last time, but I specifically remember very vividly that happened with me several times with Snow White with the Red Hair. I just was like, man, I'm so happy. My heart is so content that I want to hug my manga just so I could hug these characters. Maybe it sounds weird, but y'all, it made me incredibly happy. And so to make that kind of connection, the stories, yes, are very different, but they have similar beats or similar themes that really resonated with my heart. And I was just blown away by that. And again, very, very happy to have that kind of relation between two series that I really enjoyed. Because yes, if I didn't say it already, I think I did, that I'm going to be picking up the rest of the volumes that I don't have, filling in the gap. I may not be able to do it right away due to some in real life stuff, but I do not want to sleep on this series anymore. Especially going into the characters here, I loved Colette. I loved her energy. I loved her vibrancy. I even loved her relatability at the very beginning, where we're seeing her overworked and she's really thinking, is this worth it? Despite that she loves what she does. And there's several different things that she learns on these journeys that she actively takes. Like, we're talking about where she goes from one village to another, which was really cool. I didn't expect that adventure at all, okay? But as she's going, she never stops growing as a character, as an individual, where I will admit, with the latest arc we're in at the very end of volume 7, the creator mentioned she's not going to have quite as much spotlight, which is fine. I'm like, Colette, I'm really going to miss seeing you grow, because seeing her realize what is her dream as an apothecary, what does she want to do, because her sister's like, hey, you know, what is your ambition? And Colette really doesn't have one at that time. But then after a certain incident, she realizes, this is what I want to do. And it was exciting for me, like, yes, you know, you have come so far, where again, she's overworked and realizing she has these apprentices, but she's still putting everything on her shoulders and she doesn't have to. And then she starts realizing people around her are working so hard to not only be the, in this case, the best apothecary they can be, but also to help her as well. And you have to be willing to look around you to see, man, there's really great people around me. Not that she was like bashing them. It's just, I think somebody for myself who really struggles. And I think even Lord Hermes, one of the other characters in the series, mentions of, you know, the fastest, quickest way to burnout is not depending on the people around you who are reliable. And I was like, you don't have to do that call out, okay? You don't have to call me out like that. So just one of the things that I took away. And also to say with that, I'm not sure how much I can expand on this because I feel like it would go into spoiler territory, but when she goes back home and she starts seeing how things have changed, but she wanted things to always stay the same. Y'all, that really hurt my heart. There's several moments I feel like Colette is so relatable. I'm not an apothecary. I have no interest in becoming a doctor or a nurse. I can't handle blood at all, like period. And so I can't even imagine and fathom the things that she has seen, the things she has done to help other people. But there's still several moments where I'm like, man, I can relate so much to you. The insecurity at times that another character made her feel when it came to Lord Hades. I was like, girl, yes, I felt that too. Like so many things that made her more than just a fun and inspiring heroine, which is something I really love when it comes to shoujo manga. I love these kind of heroines. I adore them. These are my favorite characters, okay? But also being able to relate to her when I really wasn't expecting that. I mean, she goes on crazy adventures when she's going up to the celestial realm and she's with these Greek gods and whatnot. Like, oh my goodness, she began roped up into the craziest things. And there's times too where she feels sad and feels depressed. And I admire her very, very much. She's an incredible heroine. I really feel like it came down to that. She's incredible. She's fun. And I enjoyed greatly seeing her as an individual. Oh, I should have shared this cover because this is one of my favorite covers. But I wanted to talk about Lord Hades, who was very interesting to me because you meet him. I'm not really sure what the word is. I don't want to say he's grumpy. I don't feel that he is. Yes, in the beginning he is a little bit irked, and I really don't blame him because of how Colette is more or less jumping on him, forcing him down, and really, I wouldn't say doesn't care about boundaries. There's nothing romantic that's happening, but she's really concerned about him as a doctor and patient kind of relationship. He was a little bit irked there, but it's very fascinating as the story goes on and you see how he is growing as well. And I get that goes back to making that connection with Snow the Red Hair of where you are invested in the romance, but seeing our leads when they're not together, that seeing them grow is a really special thing as a reader. And I felt, while I loved Colette, and I would definitely say that she was probably in my top 3 favorite characters, the changes in Hades are very, very subtle and you can see Colette's influence on him. And I really enjoyed of how much his face and his expressions soften, especially when we get to these later volumes here and the romance is really starting to unfold. You can see how much thought he puts into his actions, not just when it came to the romance. There were times I'm like, Hades, don't think about it too much, just give in. Give in to your emotions right now. But especially as a judge, the Lord of the Dead here, he really cares about his job. And I admired how he, when everybody else around him, that like his brothers and sisters are like, I would never want to go to the underworld. It's so dark, it's so gloomy, it's so this and that. He does not feel anything like that. He doesn't feel it's a gloomy place. He loves being here and he cares to be an honest and sincere judge that actively listens to these shades. I don't know if we'll go into that or not, but to these people, we'll say, coming in to be judged. Like he genuinely gives them 100% time and focus to hear their stories. I think that I will just say that as that went into this latest volume, the series has been pretty chill overall, very funny. But when we get to that, I was about to say final volume, it's not the final volume, but when we get to the latest volume, excuse me, it was pretty intense. And I was feeling some like anxiousness on Hades' behalf and what exactly is going to happen because of how serious he is about his job. And it was really nice when it came to the romance between them of how much they could relate to one another in being workaholics and how they help each other and aid each other to remind, hey, you need to take a rest. And how the other's always thinking of how could this person I care for, how could they take a break here and there, you know, and what can I do to help ease their burdens, even though, you know, she's immortal and he's a god and there's obviously that division that's there, there's still things they can actively do to help the other person. And we see those moments. And I will say too, the #1 biggest surprise with Hades, y'all, when that romance starts blooming, excuse me, my heart was skipping a beat so many times. I'm like, bruh, the swooned. My heart felt like it started beating on my chest. I was not prepared for Hades. I was like, I did not know your game, sir. Oh my goodness. I can see why Colette is always blushing, y'all. Like, the blushing was real for myself. Like, wow. When he was all in, y'all. He was all in, and I was really thriving and seeing. This is actually one of my favorite covers with both of them. It just gives me some vibes, and I really like it, and I was very thankful to, I guess, talking about the romance. It was very much, I think, a slow burn, and I really loved the intentions that both of them had with their relationship before the romance is happening, and they're starting to realize their feelings. I really loved how there was a special time given for both of them to realize, oh, I love this other person, and not only that, but to acknowledge, granted it takes some time, especially for Hades, who actively thinks about, what does this mean if I fall in love with a mortal? What does it mean for future me? What does it mean for right now? He gives such attention to this thought process that I was deeply impressed. There were times where I'm like, okay, this is great. And I felt the same way with Snow the Red Hair. Like, okay, this is great. Can the romance just sail? Can we focus on the romance? Like, all right, that's great about everything else that's happening, but that's what I want. I definitely struggle with that at times, but I felt very satisfied and very touched by his thought process with everything. And then with Colette, when she starts realizing her feelings, I really loved her realization. It was slow, but it wasn't like so painfully slow that I'm like, oh, I want to drop this or something. No, it was I felt it was very beautiful. I feel like since I tend to gravitate towards series that at least that I've been releasing, where they're in a relationship within like volume 1, volume 2, it was very much a surprise to me to read a series where that's not happening, where we're taking several volumes where Colette doesn't even know what this feeling is for Hades. She knows he's special, but how? And why is he special to her? Why does she feel certain ways where sometimes she's jealous, sometimes she's sad that she can't spend time with him and other people have? What exactly is this? And so when she has like that breakthrough for her feelings of, wow, I really love Hades, y'all, it was excellent. It was well worth the wait to see that romance to build up to this point, and then eventually when they say I love you, oh, my heart was done for. It was everything I was hoping for, and I really appreciate how the creator, even if a lot of things are happening in the manga right now, she doesn't forget to give us a little bit of crumbs with that romance. I really appreciate that, Sensei. Thank you very much. Thank you. So it was very good. The character development of the characters individually, and then even them as a romantic couple and how they're working through things. I love the communication. I love that when Colette makes, I think it was like in the latest volume, of when she's like, you know, he seems really resolved about something that happens. And then she starts seeing his facial expression and realizes, no, I think I misunderstood. No, I did misunderstand, and knows just how to encourage him. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I absolutely loved it. But let's talk about a few of those other characters that are in the manga, like these skeletons. Hands down, I pretty much feel they are my favorite characters. There's just something so special, and I'm like, can more manga have characters like the skeletons? They are servants to Lord Hades. Their love for him knows no bounds, and I truly adored their hypothetical dreams that they had when another character comes in the latest volume who looks like a very young Lord Hades, and they are just overjoyed. Oh, there's so many parts where you can see how deep their love goes for Lord Hades. He is their #1 priority. They will do anything and everything for him. They bring a lot of humor at several points. It's so great. It is so great. There's multiple scenes with them. There was a sidebar. Sensei mentions that there was a short story, which was so good. All the short stories about the skeletons, 10 out of 10. But there was a specific one in the earlier volumes where people were buying the magazine because it was originally, the short story was only in the magazine. People bought that magazine just for the short story over buying the volume. And so when there was a physical volume release, they decided to include it in there. And I'm like, I'm so glad, because it is absolutely the best. I really love when they have time, when they have attention, and And since there's several different ones, like we have Chef, we have the Bats, we have Harry, who's definitely my favorite skeleton, we have the Secretary, and I really love at different moments in the manga that each skeleton sort of has like a focus, whether it's good or bad. Like Harry, oh goodness, the beginning, yes. When Harry had a time to shine as the tailor, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I feel like that is where my love for the skeletons started really unfolding, and I was like, they are wonderful. There is Harry right there. And so what I was trying to say that before is I love how there's just a random chapter that's dedicated to each one where they're like, hello reader, and they talk about whatever they are doing. How can they help Lord Hades? What do they dream about concerning Lord Hades? What do they want Lord Hades to say to them? They are a very unique part of this series, and they really make it a fun and magical experience. Though the person that is the ferryman, where is he? I just saw him just a moment ago. He would be in my top 3 favorite characters as well, and I really appreciated Charan, I think is his name, and I really loved how the mangaka gave us chapters about him and how he had a moment to shine, and we really got to know him as a character. Why is he working with Lord Hades? How did he get here? What is his backstory and his connection and his relationship with Hades? Because it is special. It was so much bigger, deeper, stronger than I ever anticipated. This is a really good chapter, and it really tugged at my heartstrings, and so I love them. They were fantastic, and I was excited every time they had a chapter to shine. They were not as prevalent in the latest volume, and I was very sad because I'm like, please come back, bring me my ferryman. Like, I really like their character a lot, and I think other people will as well. Another character here is Holly, who worked in Lord Zeus's home, I guess you would say. I loved how straightforward they were and how they really did care for Colette, the way that they would get very blushy and how they exchanged letters with one another. That was a very fun interaction. I will say that if there was anything that I should have said that at the beginning, I was leery, same as I was as Merit and the Egyptian God, of how much I would enjoy this, because I'm not really one to get invested in like Greek mythology, or in that case Egyptian mythology, but the world building was so well done with these different Greek gods and goddesses that I was surprised, for example, that Lord Dio was one of my favorite characters as well. He was so special, and I should say special to me because I really liked his childlike personality and how he was able to help Colette in ways that I don't think I was expecting him to do, considering that he is the god of wine and he's often more drunk than being sober. And so it was very surprising when they are adventuring together and how he's able to help her. And there was a special moment where Colette helps him, and I love that moment so much. There were several different times I teared up in this manga, and I wanted to talk more about the other guys and whatnot. But I wanted to say though is volume 5 here with Kotsume. Oh my goodness, I never expected I would cry about an otter. I don't even know fully of how to capture my feelings about this little man. He was so precious. His determination, the way he worked so hard, was incredibly precious. One of the best moments in this series, or one of the best arcs, one of the most moving and emotional ones, and I really felt my heart being tugged at so hard, and I was very shocked by some of the outcomes that came out of this arc. Even though I was very happy to see and know that he sticks around, it seems, the duration of this manga. Again, I never expected an otter to be here and his interactions with everybody, and he is such a special little dude. Oh my goodness. Prepare yourself for volume, I guess the second half of volume 4 and volume 5. Yes, it is heartfelt, and I have no doubts that when people read it, that they are going to be just as emotional and be super proud of this otter. You cannot help but root and cheer for him and what he's doing, the really great love he has, and the times that he is just, oh, he's so emotional. He's so emotional. He cries, and I admit he does not have the prettiest tears, truthfully, but he is so earnest, and he will just, again, he will captivate your heart. And I was like, I'm so glad that Shoujo Beat decided for one of the covers of the omnibus that they would have him on here, because yes, he deserves to be on the cover, have some time to shine. He was really, really fantastic. And again, never expected an otter to be in this series, never expected to get emotionally attached to an otter, but here we are. And if you've read the manga, you know, friends, you know. So he was another really great character. But I was trying to say before, I was trying to talk about the different Greeks and gods that are up in the celestial realm. They were very interesting. Zeus was a very fun character. He's very different than what I expected, even though I feel like when we first meet him, is it at the beginning of volume, or somewhere in volume 2, and we hear the story of him and Hades' interactions and how things have come to be. I feel like I didn't have the strongest impression of Zeus, or at least not the best way of viewing him. It was sort of more on the negative side. It was sort of more negative. Apollo, I didn't really feel like we had like a strong, or I felt like I didn't have a really super strong attachment to him. I did appreciate some of his later influence when it came to a certain scene that felt like a whirlwind was happening in the underworld. I really, really liked, as I said before, Lord Dio. He's one of my favorite characters. He is just so fun and enjoyed him deeply. The other one, though, that really surprised me that I liked was Lord Hermes. I did not expect to really come to like his character. I really like, he's not conniving, but he's very much a merchant. And I loved how he's always pitching like, oh, you want to buy something? The way he knows how to rope in Lord Hades, and how that was its own little thing for several of the, like the little bonus comics at the end. That was really great. We met several, honestly, in this volume. We met several different characters, and I was really surprised. I'm very unsure of the new king, I guess you would say, that we met. I would just say the last 4 characters that we met, I'm very, outside of one of them, I don't know how to feel about them. I definitely agree with one character that no matter what they do, they're going to look, I think he said, very callous to Lord Hades. And I'm like, even if Lord Hades doesn't feel that way, yes, for me, because you caused such a disturbance. And I get there were really strong feelings you had for what you did, but it didn't make it right. Don't make Lord Hades' life harder than it already is. He's very much overworked. Don't put more work on him. But I think it's going to grow into a really powerful and compelling arc. And so I'm excited to see that. And so there was a really, when we're meeting some of these other people that are in their other characters in the celestial realm, Colette really gets wrapped up into this duel that is just absolutely insane in my opinion. Like, how does she keep getting roped up into these different things? How does this keep happening to her? But it's always really fun to read when that does happen. I'm sorry, Colette. But yeah, I wanted to mention there were some characters in the beginning, and I mentioned about, everybody, oh, I really like this one. They look so great. But that the creator really gives special time and importance and emphasis to these side characters where you're really getting to know them as well. It's not just about our leads. And I appreciate how, especially when she's in the village that she works in, these two right here, her apprentices, I really felt, so the creator had a sidebar mentioning how she wanted to convey the sense of time that when the story is on Colette, that they have their own story happening too. And I really felt that that was conveyed, that you can see them growing. We may not see it on page necessarily, but you can see that they are working hard behind the scenes. And so I really appreciate it. We had several different chapter headings or illustrations, excuse me, with these two, and being able to connect with them as a reader. And that continued through the whole manga with different apothecaries that Colette meets, her other siblings that she meets, and other characters along the way. I felt, again, going back to that investment, that I felt invested in them too. And so I just wanted to mention that because I really like them, and I have missed them in these later volumes since Colette's not home and she's on her own adventure. I'm like, please bring them back and we could see them eventually when she goes back home. So overall, I really, really adored this manga. manga so much. The art was beautiful. The characters are beautiful. It was a truly very healing kind of series. I think I appreciate even more when I first started volume 1, I was having some really bad anxiety in my life and just felt sort of overwhelmed. And this series really at the beginning validated me, inspired me, reminded me to rest, to depend on other people. And I felt just right when I started, it was the perfect timing to come back to this series. But then as I'm reading and I'm getting, more into the series, I'm like, man, this series is just wonderful. And it's one that I would highly, highly recommend. Everything is coming together in such this beautiful and profound, but also really enjoyable way that it's not like you're, I guess, constantly being bombarded with like subliminal messages to take rest, to take breaks, and to be proud of the work that you do and to find meaning. Like, it's not always that, but I do feel it's there at just the right moments where you're learning right alongside the main character. And I appreciate how we had just a really great blend of all of that and would strongly recommend checking it out, especially if you are a fan of Greek mythology. Especially, I'm not super familiar with it, but I do know that it was near one of the final sidebars that Sensei mentioned meeting with somebody and was incorporating more Greek mythology into the series. And I really think you can see where that lore is starting to really come in at the latest volume compared to the earlier volumes. So yeah. Thank you, friends, for voting for this series. I'm excited to keep reading this, seeing where the series goes. I'm very curious of how it's going to end, and hopefully it ends on a very fun, beautiful, bright note with a much, much happy ending. I will be definitely sharing my thoughts on that when those volumes release. And I would love to know, have you read this series? Does it sound interesting to you? Who's your favorite character? And if you haven't read this, are you into Greek mythology? And if you are, who's one of your, I guess you would say, one of your favorites? I would love to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!